the 2008 DTV presidential debate. We have three candidates today who will be representing the viewpoints of the three candidates in this race. I will introduce them and then we will begin with the questions. Representing the McCain camp is Joel Arnold, sophomore at Davison High School. Representing Ralph Nader is Robin Chan, senior at Davison High School and DTV member. And representing the Obama camp is David Kennedy, sophomore at Davison High School. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I think we ought to go ahead and jump right into this and get started. The issue on everybody's mind, no surprise to you, I'm sure, is of course the state of our economy and what's been happening with our economic situation over the course of the last couple of weeks. The nation is currently facing what some have called the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. What is your plan for economic recovery, and how would you address the current situation? I think we're going to start with Mr. Arnold, representing the McCain camp.
All right, well, I'd like to thank DTV and Ms. Pauso for mediating this, and just thank you for putting on this event. The American economy is by far the most important issue on this current debate and this current presidential election, with the main issue being the mortgage crisis and lending. Over 2 years ago, I'd sounded the alarm in the Senate that we needed to heighten regulations on the mortgage system. And as president, I would like to increase regulations on that, as well as I currently support the bailout plan that would help alleviate some of the debt of the banks and help ease the costs and pain of Americans in mortgage loan debt and in an overall economic of uncertainty. So as president, I would plan to really move more on the ideals that I have in the past, securing the mortgage system and cutting taxes for the American people, majoritarily those who supply jobs, and keeping the current Bush tax cut system for helping the middle class.
Thank you. And now let's shift this question to Mr. Chan, who's representing Nader.
Well, thank you, Ms. Pauso, and I'd also like to thank DTV as well. Starting off, without a doubt, the U.S. is in drastic need of redirecting its federal budget. One of the most significant changes we can make to this would be to cut our overly bloated military budget. In essence, the federal budget needs to move away from the wasteful spending that makes us less secure in many other ways. The task force on the United Security budget for the United States made recommendations in the March of 2004 that would cut the defense spending by over $51 billion. Their recommendations also included improving security in non-military expenditures. Another point to make is that we need fairer taxes. We need a tax system where corporations and the wealthiest pay their share. Also, we need tax activities that are unfavorable, such as alcohol and tobacco, pollution, gambling, and speculation. And another point to make too is that the way to solve our economic crisis is not by putting the $700 billion bailout on the taxpayers. I don't see any point in giving a blank check to Wall Street and then allowing them to give us the exact same mess again while burdening the American population.
And Mr. Kennedy.
Well, my plan has several steps. The first one is immediate action to create good jobs in America. These are energy jobs, which will also help us in our quest for energy independence, which every president since Nixon has been searching for and exploring new ways. The second step is to find immediate relief for struggling families. This is tax cuts and health care that we feel really could relieve these families of the burden they bear. Then we need to find direct, immediate assistance for homeowners and not a bailout to irresponsible mortgage lenders. It is the mortgage lenders who have really created this crisis. They gave out loans to people who were irresponsible and couldn't pay these back. And then we need a rapid, aggressive response to our financial crisis using all the tools we have. And all the resources, and then also getting all the troops out of Iraq. We're spending billions of dollars in Iraq every day, every week, every month, and it's draining our economy. No country ever has been the elite military power and sustained a healthy economy. and this our debt has gotten so bad that the counter for the national debt had to be replaced, and they had to take the dollar sign off because it couldn't hold enough places. So it's not good right now.
Mr. Kennedy, before we move on, you mentioned tax cuts in your response. How would you respond to those critics of yours who in recent weeks have charged you with raising tax cuts or raising taxes as part of your economic plan? I know recently you were encountered with a situation in which a citizen, a voter, questioned you on that. How would you respond to those concerns that people have about you raising taxes?
It's pretty basic. If you don't make more than $250,000 a year, your taxes will not increase. They will decrease. You will see your taxes go to the level that they were under Reagan's administration. Anyone who says otherwise, it's not true.
Thank you.
Can I just make a statement?
Absolutely.
One thing that he forgets often to mention is that he's also for the elimination of the Bush tax cuts, which did raise the child tax credit to $1,000, which gave any family, if you had a child, more money, plus lowered the marriage penalty. So if you are married or you have a child, which is a large portion of middle-class America, that sector of your taxes will go up. So to say that anybody earning under $250,000 will not see a raise in taxes isn't true.
No, anyone who makes less than $250,000 will not see their taxes increase, bottom line.
How can I reply?
Sure.
How can you say that when you're willing to eliminate, when you have been staunchly for eliminating these tax cuts, which did give you more money for your child and eliminate and lower the marriage penalty, giving you a 10% deduction for a two-earning couple? Yeah, if you eliminate those and you're reinstating those higher rates and the higher taxes, so you are going to be paying more to the government, which is our hike in taxes.
Taxes are something that no American wants to pay, but they are necessary. They are vital to our protection and to our country as a whole. The tax cuts will not affect you unless you make more than $250,000 a year. Your taxes will not increase.
Could I?
One more response
Okay.
to that, and then we'll move on.
Some of the sector of the senator's ideals, three-quarters of the people who fit under his guidelines would be small business owners. So portraying it as taking down maybe a corporate behemoth or a greedy corporation is inaccurate, because you're taking down these small business owners that make up the fabric of middle-class America. So while many argue against the trickle-down economic system of if you cut taxes, it won't affect those below them. If you raise taxes on these employers with small business America, they will pass the hiked taxes down by cutting their employee salary, which will undoubtedly affect those who work for these people under his tax hike. So overall, you're going to see either a cut in pay or a hike in taxes, which I would not be for at all.
Okay. Before we move on to a second issue, Mr. Arnold, you mentioned that you supported the bailout. I would like to go back to that statement for just a minute. Assuming that banks need federal assistance to get back on track, and that's the stand that you're taking, how would you respond to opponents of yours who might say that banks and lending institutions really should solve their own problems? There have been a number of criticisms that basically revolve around this idea that, we need to maintain the spirit of rugged individualism, and that the banks shouldn't be bailing anybody out. How would you respond to that? Basically, these attacks that the Republican Party is turning socialist. I mean, that's what some people are saying.
Well, to reply to that, I'd say that under a normal economic situation or a normal economic crisis, I would be for, if a corporation makes a bad error or makes bad decisions in their economic choices, they should be allowed to go under. But when it's something of this magnitude, of this huge spectrum, as many have said, the greatest since the Great Depression, I think that some of these ideologies have to be set to the side. And like under Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the 1930s, he passed the New Deal, which injected large amounts of government money into the economy and was often credited for getting us out of the Great Depression. So these tactics that have been being implemented now have worked in the past under arguably some of the greatest presidents in American history. And under an economic crisis of this scale, we would need to go to unconventional settings to alleviate ourselves from this huge financial burden.
Thank you. Let's turn our attention now to another issue that many voters have cited as one of the most pressing issues of our time, and that is the issue of health care. Some have stated that health care should be considered a constitutional right of all Americans and all people living in this country. I would like each of you to explain your vision for health care reform and explain how your plan will benefit the average American. Let's start with Mr. Chan.
In the view of the Nader campaign and myself, the current status of the American healthcare system is absolutely unacceptable. The U.S. spends far more than any other country on its own healthcare, but yet, according to the World Health Organization, we're only rated the 37th country in terms of returning those gains on what we spend. The Nader campaign for flavor is replacing our fragmented market-based system with a single-payer healthcare plan, where the government finances healthcare but keeps delivery of healthcare to private, non-profit organizations and allows the free choice of doctors and hospitals for patients.
Mr. Kennedy.
Barack Obama and John Biden's plan is to provide affordable, accessible health care for all Americans. Healthcare right now in this country is deplorable. Healthcare costs are skyrocketing, and tens of millions of Americans are uninsured because of it. Barack Obama and Joe Biden's plan is that if you like your current insurance policy, keep it. Nothing changes, except for your new costs will go down as much as $2,500 per year. If you don't have health insurance, you will have a choice of new, affordable health insurance options.
And Mr. Arnold.
John McCain's stance for most of this is that his stance would be that he wants to get a healthcare insurance policy that can follow you from job to job. So as you switch your corporations, you still know what you're getting, and that he will alleviate some of the costs of paying for his insurance with a $2,500 tax credit for individuals and a $5,000 tax credit for families, making it easier to pay for. The best and most secure way to keep healthcare is to create jobs. Most jobs will give you healthcare. So the only way that we can really increase the healthcare coverage in this nation is to increase people having jobs, which is again translate right into improving the economy. So the more the economy improves, we'll be able to improve our healthcare system as a whole. Government-run healthcare has been used in other nations and has oftentimes not worked out because people have long waits, they don't get seen as quickly, and oftentimes medical conditions can become worse and worse due to a longer waiting time that can often lead to a person having irreparable damage to their health. So the best way to get your health insurance is by your job, and that's by creating jobs, which with using tax cuts, I would plan to do.
So would you say that healthcare should be considered a constitutional right of Americans?
Well, healthcare, as with the American government already provides a certain portion of healthcare to those who are out of a job or don't have a job that provides a certain amount of healthcare. And I think healthcare, people who work hard in their lives get to a job that has a high upstanding in the economic world, have decent healthcare coverage. So it's really how hard are you willing to go, or how far are you willing to go to get the best healthcare that you can get. The different levels are you're going to get different coverage. But overall, healthcare would be a right which the American government does provide to its citizens.
I have to interrupt quickly and state.
Go ahead.
The important thing to note here, and the one sole difference between my plan from Mr. Obama's plan and from Mr. Arnold, is that you are still stuck with insurance companies. They're basically the middleman between you and actually receiving the health care that you need. It's completely unacceptable that we live in a country, the richest country in the world, but we cannot afford health care for all of our citizens, or we choose not to have health care for all of our citizens. Both Senator McCain and Senator Obama's plans still keep insurance companies as a middleman in your health care, And in fact, it's perverted because they're making profit off of your suffering and of your pain. Under my plan, insurance companies would be wiped out, and only between you and your doctor that would require your health care.
Thank you. Let's turn our attention now to the war in Iraq and foreign policy. We're going to start with Mr. Kennedy on this question. What is your assessment of our current involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan?
In Iraq right now, we need a plan to get our troops out of Iraq. We have a plan, and we will speak with generals on the ground to ultimately remove all our troops. Afghanistan, we need to work diplomatically with Pakistan to find the leaders of Al Qaeda and to take them down.
And you talk about withdrawing troops from Iraq and Afghanistan. Mr. Kennedy, do you have a timetable that you're looking at for how quickly that would happen?
I believe it is a 16-month plan. So yes.
Mr. Chan.
The fact of the matter is the occupation of Iraq and Afghanistan is criminal in every single form of matter. This war has cost us over 4,000 American lives and over 1 million Iraqi lives, not to count for all the hundreds of thousands of American soldiers that have been injured in Iraq.
Mr. Arnold.
I'm sorry, I wasn't finished.
I'm sorry.
Not only do we allow innocent Iraqi civilians to be murdered, we also allow corporations such as Blackwater, a security defense company, to be in Iraq to commit heinous acts that not even U.S. soldiers could get away with. The point of the matter is 19 men flew into our towers on 9/11. We will never be able to wage enough war to the extent that we will be able to stop 19 men from wanting to do us harm or injury. We need to base our foreign policy and the entire agenda of the U.S. on something that's less militarism and more on diplomacy.
Mr. Arnold?
Since the outset of the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan, John McCain has supported it. The only way to protect America is to take out our allies abroad. The current condition in Iraq has been far improved from 2 years ago. Last year, President Bush instituted the troop surge, a proposal which Senator Obama said, and Senator Obama and Senator Biden both said would never work. The troop surge has been, of 20,000 troops, has shown to improve the conditions on the ground in Iraq. The majority of Iraqi provinces have been returned to Iraqi control, and the country has been moving forward at a steady pace with slow troop withdrawals since this summer. And as for Afghanistan, the main criticism has been put more troops in, which I have agreed with. And this year we have put a few thousand more troops into Afghanistan. But I have the position that we need to put more in. We need to find these leaders of Al Qaeda, and we need to be able to stomp out this organization that has in the past done us harm and continues their radical beliefs and would like to continue to harm innocent Americans to promote their Islamic ideologies.
Could I speak on the specifics of Barack
Sure.
Obama's plan? Barack Obama has opposed this war from the beginning. His plan is to get our troops out of Iraq and the Middle East with phased redeployment. 2 brigades a month would get our whole army out of Iraq fairly swiftly. It is not necessarily that Barack Obama opposes all wars that were for our country, to protect our country. He was against Iraq because he believed it was a rash war. Even a successful war in Iraq would still require a U.S. occupation of undetermined length, and he realized this from the beginning. Instead of the troop surge, which Mr. Arnold has mentioned, what we need is a diplomatic surge. We need presidential leadership to press for a regional compact that secures Iraq's borders, keeps neighbors from meddling, isolates Al Qaeda, and supports Iraq's unity. This means turning the page on the Bush-Cheney policy of not talking to Syria and Iran. Conventional Washington says presidents cannot do this, but not talking to our adversaries doesn't make us look tough, it makes us look arrogant. And that's pretty much all I had to say.
Could I interject
Sure.
something? On Mr. Kennedy's ideas. the only way to really protect America is to be able to stay in this, is to be able to defend us and take out our enemies abroad. A 16-month timetable to withdraw basically gives terrorists or those against us a time they have to wait. They can just wait. If they know how long it is until we're going to be out there, they can simply stand in the shadows until we're gone, and then they can do what they'd planned on doing, and they can build up strength during that time. You can't just say we're going to be out in this certain amount of time, we're going to be out now, because they will use that to their advantage. They'll use it to just wait and recruit during that time frame until we are gone and then attack us again. And on his ideals of talking to Iran and Syria's leaders which are rogue leaders, Iranian president who doesn't even believe that the Holocaust, arguably the worst tragedy in human history, has happened. And Barack Obama has said that he has refused multiple times. He says he will not even talk with people on the Fox News channel. So if he can't even speak with people who work for just a media station in America, how is he going to be able to speak with Iranian and Syrian leaders who have been proven to be radical ideologists of their own beliefs?
Mr. Kennedy, at recent rallies that have been held around the country by Senator McCain's vice presidential pick, Sarah Palin, she has said it repeatedly that she would just once like to hear you use the word victory in terms of what is going on in Iraq. With a 16-month timetable for the withdrawal of troops from Iraq and Afghanistan, do you believe that victory is possible, or do you believe that a quick withdrawal is probably the best plan?
I believe that we've gotten as close to victory as we possibly can. Iraq now has a military. It now has a government, and it now has a surplus in its economy, unlike ours. And we've been spending money over there when they have a surplus. That just doesn't seem right to me. It's not a white flag of surrender. We've done what we can there, and now it's time for them to take over.
Thank you. Moving on to
I would just like to interject real quick.
Absolutely.
The point I would like to make here, Mr. Arnold, how many American lives will it take before we as a country realize that militarism and forcing our own will upon other countries will never be the way to solve our problems? We cannot proclaim in victory in a country where we never should have even been there in the first place. Thank you.
Moving on to nuclear weapons and nuclear proliferation. We'd like to begin with a question that many Americans may ask. How would you, as a presidential candidate, address the nuclear threat that we currently face from countries like Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea? We'll start with Mr. Arnold.
I think that our first strategy, as we did in Iraq with UN peacekeepers, would be to attempt diplomacy. These nations, such as Iran and what President Bush labeled the axis of evil back in the 2002 State of the Union, are nations that pose a serious threat to our American way of life and our national security. Iraq had used weapons such as this before in late 80s, mass murders of Kurds in the northern portion of the country, and had shown their ability to do it again and continuously refused UN involvement or didn't listen to sanctions from the governing body. I think that the first attempt is always diplomacy. You never want to unnecessarily throw American lives in danger. But if it comes down to where our nation's security is being threatened, and we have to put down a threat from a foreign nation such as Iran, who has shown that they would like to do harm to us and continuously doesn't listen to international calls and international demands, then I believe that our only option is to mobilize and actually takes out these threats firsthand to secure Americans domestically at home.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here's the situation right now. There are 5 known nuclear states in accordance with the NPT: the U.S., Russia, the U.K., France, and China. There are 3 other known nuclear states: India, Pakistan, and North Korea. And there are several states under investigation, including Iran and Saudi Arabia. Obama has worked with Dick Lugar to pass a law to collect all nuclear materials and would continue to do so in hopes of completing the act within his first term in office. We have in America a need to change the policy, a policy that was created to combat the USSR, which of course no longer exists. More nuclear weapons mean a danger to all of us. he believes in a no nuclear weapon world. We will not pursue unilateral disarmament. As long as weapons exist, we will remain a deterrent. We must take U.S. and Russian missiles off alert. There's no reason for them. Also, we must reduce nuclear stockpiling and find diplomatically a treaty for global ban on nuclear weapons. We must lead by an example in this country, requiring a new era of American diplomacy where the U.S. will be willing to talk to any nation. The way to protect American people is not only to make agreements with our friends, a McCain policy, and take advantage of what we can do with our enemies to try to become friends with them.
Mr. Chan?
Well, to point out, it's easy for anyone to actually say that they would try diplomacy, but in terms of Mr. Arnold's case, I find it very hard to believe that diplomacy would be enacted when his party, in fact, is based on going to war and has taken, Senator McCain's campaign has taken contributions from defense corporations. The point of the matter is that the U.S. must enact diplomacy, and it can no longer try and use and threaten its own military might and label different countries in terms of axis of evil, because what it often does, it creates counterproductive and it loops together these rogue countries into becoming our enemies. Diplomacy is required and needed, and we need to do it now.
Could I say something about?
Absolutely.
Mr. Chan has described the Republican Party as a party that supports war and advocates war, which is simply not true. With Iraq, we attempted peacekeeping. We attempted to have them disarm. We attempted even to we even told Saddam Hussein that he must release a statement that he has disarmed, which he never did. We gave him months and nearly a half a year to do such a thing, all the way up until from the fall of 2002 until March of 2003, in which he did not do it. And this was after UN investigators had been sent in. The Republican Party and America as a whole, we do not like war. But war is the last option. But when it comes down to continued denials and continued ignorance of international protocol and international requests, it's a step that needs to be taken to protect the American people and to keep the 310 million people that live here at safe.
Let's turn our attention to the subject of immigration. As a presidential candidate, how would each of you address the immigration issue in the United States? Start with Mr. Chan.
Whether or not Americans like it, undocumented immigrants have become an integral part of our society. They work here, they live here, and without a doubt, there's no way we can actually ever take such drastic measures as to send them all back. There are a couple things that we can do to try and actually help the immigration issue. The first of which is to raise the minimum wage to an actual living wage. This will in fact help all immigrants who are indeed working in the U.S. And also another point is to have stricter law enforcement of employers that indeed hire these undocumented immigrants. Undocumented immigrants provide a service for America, and because of that, I believe that they're entitled to all the fair labor standards and rights and benefits of the American workers. An issue of amnesty has been brought up with undocumented immigrants, and there's still much needed debate in terms of whether or not we could allow such a program to exist in our country. A very genuine concern would be that allowing such an amnesty program would open the floodgates and have constant waves of immigrants coming into our country. But for the immigrants that are here now, working now, and providing services for us now, we should enact some sort of a guest worker program to help benefit them and ensure that they are protected just as much as every other American citizen is.
Mr. Arnold.
Well, this is something that me and Mr. Chan and Senator McCain and Senator Nader have agreed on. John McCain supports an idea of offering those who are illegal here either giving a legal pass to citizenship or deportation to their original homeland. The amount of illegal immigrants and the weakness of our borders is an issue that needs to be acted on quickly. John McCain has planned to do more extensive background checks and an electronic system of secure background checks to make sure that those who are being hired by people who are legal citizens in America owning these jobs are not using illegal workers to fund their own economic systems and to make themselves more money in the act. So we will offer the plan of either deportation or a path to citizenship, where these illegal citizens will become known in America. They will actually you will begin to pay their taxes, doing what, as you live in America, you have a right to live in America, but you also have responsibilities when you're living in America. And among those are actually paying the taxes that you have, and being acknowledged that your existence is here, and not actually, I guess the phrase would be taking from the system. So either a deportation to their original homeland or a secure path to citizenship, an option from those individuals of what they'd like to do.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy.
Amnesty is not something that we want to look at with illegal immigrants, but they have become a large part of our culture, especially in the southern and western states like California and Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. My plan would give the people who have been here for a long period of time American citizenship. The people who have been here less than that will be given, they will be put in the line to become American citizens. For those illegal immigrants from Mexico and Cuba or anywhere else in nearby, we need to put them back where they came from. The illegal immigrants, just the name illegal, they're not supposed to be here. We need to put them back where they came from. Some Republicans have mentioned building a wall, but this doesn't make any sense at all, because building a wall on the border, you'd have a wall going through many businesses and even a university campus. It wouldn't work, and that's what I believe.
Let's make a statement. This wall we're not talking about a specific wall just spanning this straight wall. This wall is oftentimes much of it electronic, much of it security system, tightening the borders, and this wall would obviously have gate. It's not going to cut through the middle of a university campus, and it's not going to cut through the middle of a business, although I find it hard to believe that a business would be located in two nations at one time. This wall would increase our security, make it easier for our border patrol, security people to know when people are coming in. It'd be a more ordered situation, a more ordered immigration pattern, and the system overall would drastically cut down on the number of illegal immigrants sneaking in through unprotected portions of our southern borders.
Moving on, in addition to our current economic crisis in the United States, many would say that we're also facing a crisis in education. With countries in Asia and other parts of the world outperforming us in the areas of math and science, I think that education is an issue that we need to turn our attention to. China, for example, currently has more honors students than the United States has students, period. In terms of our educational crisis, I'm interested to know, some have even called this a matter of national security. I'm curious to know what each of your thoughts on our education situation are, considering that No Child Left Behind was implemented by the Bush administration in 2003. Do you think that it has been effective in addressing real issues in education? And if not, what would you say its shortcomings have been? Mr. Arnold, we'll start with you.
On the topic of the No Child Left Behind Act, I believe that to a degree it has been effective. We have seen improvements in a large amount of states of test scores and the actual the student's performance on such exams. I believe that one of my key points that I've spoken over and over again is to try to give funds or attractive financial deals to teachers who have been high performing and have high performing students. Teachers are many times a reflection of how well they're taught. And if you can retain these teachers that do an exceptional job at what they do, you'll definitely see an increase in your students' test scores, because if a student enjoys his class or his or her class, enjoys his or her teacher, then they generally, and have been proven, that they will perform better as a student. So I think retaining these teachers and continuing to heighten our standards in what we in what we do and on our tests will be a very important way in how we can make our nation more globally competitive as far as our youth and their overall education.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy.
The No Child Left Behind Act, it sounded good, it looked good on paper, but it has been largely underfunded, and that has been its main issue. Special education programs, the same thing with them. They look great. They are a great addition to our schooling program, but they have been largely underfunded. My belief is that charter schools are great. They create pressure on the public schools to do better. They put pressure on the public schools to do better on the testing. And finally, we need to get good teachers. Good teachers are good teachers. They need to stay. They need to continue educating our populace, our future. But bad teachers need to be removed. They need to be retrained to find a new position. That pretty much covers it.
Mr. Chan?
The No Child Left Behind Act has been a failure. This act focuses on high frequency and high stakes testing. And in essence, it's de-enriched the curriculum that many schools have. Schools are intended to prepare individuals for life outside of school walls and make them better individuals. Instead, what this program does is simply throw a agenda or a curriculum at a school and then forces those students to regurgitate that curriculum on a school, and then it bases whether or not these students have actually learned anything or not. This is highly detrimental and, in fact, inhibits the education of many children. In the Nader Gonzalez administration, the responsibility of education would fall most to the state and local governments. But the federal government would be there to help support in terms of full funding for Head Start programs, guaranteeing preschool education, and repairing our crumbling schools. Education must be reformed, and one of the best ways we can start would be getting rid of the No Child Left Behind Act.
If I could interject, Barack Obama is also for pre-K schooling, as well as going up through 2 years above the 12th grade, 2 years more education. And he would give a $4,000 tax credit to students every year that would aid them in the funding for this. And it would be a great necessity because, as you said, this is really a matter of national security. It is our future. It is who will be running the country, and that is obviously something that we can't leave out.
Could I interject to that
Sure.
too? On the idea of the $4,000 tax credit, with Senator Obama constantly sticking to the ideal that we have an amazing national debt, the debt clock ran out of spaces. How is he planning on? He says he doesn't want to. He's not going to raise any taxes, and he's also not going to. He's not going to raise any taxes, but somehow he's going to be able to pay for a $4,000 grant to each student to pay for college. The system, his logic doesn't add up. If you're in a debt and you want to decrease your debt, but you're not going to raise taxes, yet somehow you're still going to have money to give $4,000 to every student who would like to go to college, the logic doesn't add up. The flaws are very evident, and to decrease the national debt, some of these plans, they just don't make any sense financially and mathematically.
Mr. Kennedy, can you speak to that?
I did not say I would not raise taxes. What I said is I would not raise taxes if you make less than $250,000 a year. Also, for someone who speaks of not raising taxes but continuing programs, what about the Iraq War? That seems to be draining our fundings pretty well. And also we need to go over the all our bills, all our programs with as you said, as John McCain said, a scalpel. We need to go over them line by line and take out the funding and programs that aren't showing progress, that aren't working.
With college tuition costs on the rise, before we leave education, what is your plan for building an educated society that can compete in an increasingly global economy? Mr. Chan.
Again, well, it goes back to repealing the No Child Left Behind Act and many ways, again, as I stated earlier, it's very detrimental to the education of students. Education should be run by the state and local governments. They're the ones that can best gauge whether or not what students need to do for their education. And the government shouldn't be throwing unfunded mandates to schools and then not being able to help them at all.
Mr. Arnold?
As I said before, as I said, the ideal of keeping these students in with these more popular, if you keep these teachers in, that'll keep these students engaged in their courses, engaged in their classes, and something they're interested in, their grades will improve. And students who do perform better and have better grades usually tend to get more scholarships, more college aid, and it becomes much easier for them to secure financial stability for continuing on in secondary education. So, but the only way to really make sure that they can succeed in going to college is to make sure that they can succeed in our public schools and in our charter schools at the 12th grade level and below. So by making sure these students are interested in their courses, retaining these teachers, and making their overall experience better, they'll have an easier time paying for college with a better system, a better grade, better credentials for receiving scholarships.
Mr. Kennedy?
Like I've said before, grades pre-K to 14 will be funded by the Barack Obama campaign. He believes that that's what our country needs. Also, the $4,000 a year credit for college tuition. This will enable many students who maybe could not afford college before to get that higher education that we need in our community and in our country, to bring energy jobs to Michigan and to create energy independence. The college is not for everyone. Apprenticeships also are something we need to look at.
Moving on. Mr. Kennedy, your party had a long primary season. And it's worth pointing out that 18 million voters in your party chose Hillary Clinton as their nominee. She did not get the nomination, obviously. Yet many are saying that this election is drawing or attracting women voters in unprecedented numbers. How would you address the concerns of those Hillary supporters who at this point are not backing you 100%, and what do you have to offer female voters?
Me and Hillary Clinton share many or most of the same beliefs. A vote. If you were going to vote for Hillary Clinton, a vote for me wouldn't be much different at all. If to say that someone wouldn't vote because I'm not a woman, we need to look at this as equality. It's not necessarily that it was a woman running for president. It was that it was someone who happened to be a woman. She's a wonderful woman and has great policies, and I can only hope that you can see the similarities between myself and her, and see that there is a difference between her and Senator Palin, which is what many people believe is one of the reasons that John McCain chose Governor Palin as his running mate.
So considering that John McCain's camp that John McCain himself chose a woman as his vice presidential candidate, what do you have to offer female voters in terms of issues that are important to them? Why do you think that your party is the better choice? What issues that are of particular concern to women do you stand firm on?
I stand firm on education and on healthcare and on the economy, and energy independence, all of which are major issues in this election.
Do you believe that those are the major issues that women are prioritizing?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone is looking at those at this time.
Mr. Arnold?
Same question?
Same question.
Well, I think that my ticket already has, and if females would be looking for something that they could relate to, Sarah Palin, which would be the first female vice president in American history, a woman who has taken on these corporations, has taken on big business, has been very much a reformist in her own ideas and Alaska would be someone that you could relate to, someone who knows what it's going through. And I think an important factor in leadership is relatability. Can this person understand what you're going through? And I think in women voters, Sarah Palin could be someone that they could relate to, someone that you could identify with. Someone that, say someone like me, like John McCain or Senator Obama or Mr. Nader could not give you that relation. Sarah Palin has proven herself again and again as governor of Alaska, having cut taxes, having taken on oil corruption, and even ran against her own party even ran against a Republican for governor of her state because she saw corruption. She doesn't see party lines. She doesn't see an R and a D next to the name. She sees what they've done, what they've accomplished, or what sort of corruption they've brought to whatever office they've been elected to. So I think Sarah Palin would be an extremely qualified candidate and someone that the female population could very much relate to and could be a first in American history.
Mr. Chan, what does your party offer the female voters?
Well, to point out real quickly, without a doubt, Governor Palin has made great gains in her lifetime, but she's definitely proven that she's been a very good fiscal conservative. What exactly is it that has she done for women? This is an issue that I'm very proud about because Ralph Nader has completely endorsed the full 11-point agenda for economic and social political rights of women advanced by the National Organization for Women. Now, certain of these points include feminization of power. This is the belief that more feminist women must be moved into policy, making positions in government, business, education, religion, and all other powerful institutions of society. Another point to mention is that now is fighting for equality in jobs, pay, credit, insurance, pensions, fringe benefits, and Social Security through legislation, negotiation, labor organization, education, and litigation. The point of the matter is that if you do the exact same amount of work, you should be given the exact same amount of pay. There should be no gender bias whatsoever at all. And the final point to make here is that the 11-point agenda for economic and social political rights of women includes an Equal Rights Amendment. The Equal Rights Amendment is essential to establish equality under the law for women. Equality in pay, job opportunities, insurance, Social Security, and education will remain an elusive dream without an ERA in the U.S. Constitution. We are committed to its passage and ratification.
Moving on, experience is a word that has surfaced many times during the course of this election. Both major parties currently have a candidate on their ticket who has been criticized for his or her lack of experience. Is this perception a valid concern, and how would you speak to it? We'll start with Mr. Kennedy.
Obviously, this is a valid concern, but Barack Obama has headed operations in Chicago as a community organizer, and also as senator in his state and senator in Washington. To say that he has a lack of experience certainly isn't true. And I hope people can take to heart that he is an experienced man who fought for the little guy in Chicago, fought for people who he went to the bad parts of Chicago because he believed it was right. He's always fighting for the people who get it the worst, the American public.
Mr. Arnold?
Experience is definitely a key issue, and John McCain, who has been serving in the United States in the legislative branch, the House or the Senate, since the 1970s, has that experience. He's been headlined multiple bills, McCain-Feingold, campaign finance bills, multiple bills in the past that he's led. Barack Obama was just elected to the United States Senate in 2006, and if you count the time that he spent campaigning, he's basically spent 1 year as a junior senator. 1 year as a senator, I don't see qualifies you for being president. I mean, never having an executive position, never leading a bill, never even having your name on the front of a proposition or a bill shows, and the ability to vote along his party lines 98% of the time, really shows that the experience is really needed. Differences is needed. The willingness to make a decision that might be unpopular with your party is needed, and things you'll learn over time or by being in certain positions, presiding over maybe a larger system, would definitely make you more prepared for being president. So I think experience is definitely something that's needed. And both John McCain, who's had the many years in the Senate, and Sarah Palin, who has served an executive position as governor of Alaska, would both have the experience to be able to serve in an executive position of power in this country. So yes, it's a very important issue.
Mr. Chan.
Well, Ralph Nader has never had the honor of carrying a title of governor, senator, or president. But the important thing to note here is that Ralph Nader has spent his entire life as being a consumer advocate. He's proven that the concerned citizen can go to Washington and actually enact change and make our country better without having to be in an elected office. In the late 60s, Nader worked to help pass the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act. This is instrumental in requiring safety belts and stronger windshields in cars, and it's something that we all still feel the impact of today. He was also influential in passing regulations on food labels and creating the Environmental Protection Agency.
Let's move on to the subject of vice presidential picks. With Joe Biden as the Obama running mate and Sarah Palin as the Republican running mate and Gonzalez as Nader's running mate, I'm interested, what consideration do you think goes into choosing a vice presidential candidate, and specifically, what qualities does your VP pick bring to the ticket? We'll start with Mr. Chan.
Well, Matt Gonzalez has been a lifelong public defendant and servant, and he's constantly been fighting for equal rights protection throughout his entire career. He definitely makes up the basic core of Ralph Nader's policies and positions. As a member and president of the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, he pushed legislation through that reflected these core values of Ralph Nader.
Mr. Kennedy?
When Barack Obama started his campaign, many people criticized him because they believed he had a lack of knowledge in foreign policy, which certainly was not the case. But his choice for Joe Biden, Joe Biden had a plan to get out of Iraq before we went in. He shared the idea with Barack Obama that Iraq was a rash war and something that was just a bad idea. He's got one of the best records in the Senate for foreign policy, and as well as other issues, economic and social. So that was the major reason that Barack Obama chose Joe Biden.
Mr. Arnold.
Sarah Palin, who has proven herself as governor in Alaska and head of their oil and economic inquiry into that board, has proven herself time and time again that she is far worthy of being a president, if something such as that would happen, and very worthy of being a vice president. She has proven that she, as leader of an oil and economic board in Alaska, shown time and time and again she was willing to take on these people even of her own party, and willing to go across these party lines, which is something that is very is a necessity in a president of the United States. Sarah Palin has shown time and time again that she has the willpower. She has had the experience as a governor in an executive position, and her bipartisanship and willingness to work with someone of a different party, maybe a Democrat or an independent, is a trait very necessary in a president of the United States, and which is one of the key reasons why John McCain has chosen her to be his vice president and represent the party.
Thank you. Let's turn our attention to the environment. Environmental issues really started coming into the forefront of American debates and discussions in the 1990s. Certainly they predate that with the implementation of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, Nixon administration. But big activists in the environmental movement did criticize President Clinton's administration for not doing enough when he held office in the 1990s. Now with more attention focused on global warming, we're curious to know which steps you would take to address the international issue of global warming, and in particular, what steps must the United States take with regards to that issue. We will start with Mr. Arnold.
John McCain has supported diversifying our economy promoting more green energy, which would also bring jobs to our country and help the environment overall and help diminish global warming. John McCain does not believe that global warming is solely a man-made thing. It's also a pattern of the Earth's overall climate, but he does believe we have contributed to it and that we do need to cut down on our consumption. He has a plan, a strategic independence plan that would make America energy independent by 2025. He even, during his campaign, had an incentive for corporations who made a gasless or a new technology sort of car to break our dependence on foreign oil and also be more green energy. He said we need wind, solar, ethanol, bioenergy, every sort of clean energy, natural gas that we can get to break our dependence, and as well as in helping the environment, creating these green jobs that are not only good for our economy, but good for helping slow global warming and helping overall the climate and environmental condition of the United States.
Mr. Chan?
Well, the important point to make about the environment is that the solutions already exist for us. Renewable energy sources such as wind and solar power offer abundant clean energy that is safe for the environment and good for the economy. We must invest in green technologies such as the refrigeration technology of green freeze. This offers viable alternatives to climate-changing chemicals. And a point to make is that the U.S. is responsible for 25% of all the global emissions, yet we have refused time and time again to sign any treaty that would cap our limits of gas emissions. In a global economy such as this, we're only given one planet, and we all must work together globally to ensure that we protect our planet.
Mr. Kennedy?
Global warming ties right in with Barack Obama's plan for energy independence, and that will bring jobs to Michigan. Obama's comprehensive New Energy for America plan will provide short-term relief to American families facing pain at the pump, help create 5 million new jobs by strategically investing $150 billion over the next 10 years to catalyze private efforts to build a clean energy future, and within 10 years save more oil than we currently import from the Middle East and Venezuela combined. Put $1 million, put 1 million plug-in hybrid cars that get up to 150 miles per gallon on the road by 2015. Cars that we will work to make sure are built here in America, such as the Volt, which will be a plug-in car, which parts are planned to be made right here in Michigan. We will ensure 10% of our electricity comes from renewable sources by 2012 and 25% by 2025. And we must implement an economy-wide cap-and-trade program to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. And all of these things will help to stop global warming, or at least postpone it, and get jobs in Michigan.
Okay, gentlemen, before we wrap things up, I have two questions that aren't about a particular issue, but certainly are relevant to the course of this campaign, well, all campaigns, this election. With fewer than 20 days left until Americans go to the polls, choose the next president, I think we can safely say that this has been a truly historic election. No election in American history has been this closely watched. However, critics representing both sides have pointed out over the course of the last few weeks that both campaigns have turned very sour and very negative. Mr. Obama's campaign has been accused of pumping lots of money into negative campaigns, pointing out things that may necessarily not be true about Mr. McCain. Mr. McCain's campaign has faced the same charges. In fact, some have said that the McCain campaign has nothing left but negativity. I think Americans who watch TV can't help but notice how sour this election has turned, and I think it's worth talking about. How do you respond to charges of negativity in your own campaign? Mr. Arnold.
Well, the statement that the McCain campaign has nothing left but negativity is simply not true at all. As John McCain has shown in debates in these sort of settings, that they've been able to have a sincere educational discussion about the issues. And many of these commercials that have been stated have been negative have oftentimes just been showing the differences between John McCain and Senator Obama's positions. Senator Obama released a commercial saying that it could all unravel under a John McCain administration, saying that it could basically all fall apart if you vote for John McCain. It sounds like the epitome of a negative ad and something that really doesn't compare the differences but only demoralize the opposing candidate. Our commercials have been more so based on showing stark differences in between our opinions and our philosophies politically, and that the view of many times these commercials has been as negative, but they are supposed to show the differences in political ideas and what we would do as a president that would be different, far different from Senator Obama's possible administration.
McCain rallies have been getting a lot of media attention as of late because of vicious statements and attacks. What are you personally, how is John McCain personally dealing with that at rallies?
Well, John McCain at one town hall meeting and a rally was actually, he had at one point had to defend Senator Obama after an attendee spoke negatively of Senator Obama's Arab heritage and the perception of such a group in terrorist organizations. Senator McCain had to step up and defend, so the saying that he's just kind of letting things go isn't true. If something such as that gets to demoralizing the person overall, gets demoralizing who they are, what they do, it's something that John McCain will not stand for and has not stood for throughout this campaign.
And Mr. Kennedy, the campaign that you represent, basically at this point has more financial resources than your two opponents here, and many have charged your campaign with doing the same thing, resorting to vicious attacks. How do you respond to that?
Well, Barack Obama is very sorry that this campaign has had to end up like this. It has turned very sour rather in the past several weeks, and that it's the tone that has been presented through the media and through the John McCain ads. We are looking towards a bright future, and one that doesn't need these ads, which is why we feel that the whole tone of the campaign, the campaign in general, for both parties and president, has got to change.
Mr. Chan.
Enjoy the fortunate opportunity. Mr. Nader doesn't enjoy the economic prosperities that both of the candidates have. He's not as well funded because he doesn't really have the celebrity fundraising rallies that both the candidates seem to have. But the point of the matter is this. Gentlemen, your candidates are both pouring billions of dollars into negative ad campaigns, which will really only lead to maybe 1 or 2 percentage point difference. If you guys are going to wind up tying, could you possibly maybe not spend so much money and maybe pump it back into the U.S. economy system where maybe we really need it? The taxpayers are hurting. Thank you.
Do either of you care to respond to that statement?
I would like
or
to
that request?
I would like to respond back to Joel's statement about how McCain has always been for protecting Barack Obama from the people that think that he is a terrorist or an Arab. How do you think these things got started, Mr. Arnold? It may have been, the commercials and the campaign rallies where Sarah Palin has said that he pals around with terrorists, and that almost seems like, I hate to say it, but that almost seems like fear-mongering to me.
Well, I think that the statement you're referring to, pals around with terrorists, would be a man labeled as a terrorist, William Ayers, a member of a group called Weather Underground, who committed acts in the 1970s that involved bombing of political buildings in the United States, and as recently as 2001 has stated how much he said even in 2001, long after he had gotten out of prison, that he wished he would have done more. So, and in 2002, Barack Obama had given a speech to him. So, this man has been labeled as a terrorist, and it's rather concerning that Barack Obama had a friendly relationship with a man who still is unrepentant about horrible acts that he did in his past and still believes these ideals. So that statement is not referring to any sort of foreign or major terrorist organization, but rather William Ayers, a member of a domestic terrorist group. And that's about it.
But to say that Barack Obama's campaign was launched in Bill Ayers' living room, so that's just not true. It's a fallacy.
Well, Barack Obama's
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry.
Also, to say that I do have to thank you because you did stand up to the lady who said that he was an Arab and that's why he wasn't voting for her. I do have to thank you for that. But don't you think it might have been those ads that said he was a terrorist? Bill Ayers is one of the most respected college professors in Chicago, and anyone who is involved in higher education in Chicago is most likely an associate of Bill Ayers. He's no longer into this underground weather underground movement. He spent his time in jail and got out, and now he is a respected person who is involved in education. To say that he is a dangerous terrorist who Barack Obama pals around with, don't you think by saying that he pals around with terrorists is a little like saying he's a terrorist himself?
No, not at all. But the statement that he's a respected president or a respected college professor, as recently as 2007, tapes of his lectures, videotapes of his lectures, have showed him still advocating and not repenting and still saying that what he did in the past was not something that he believes was bad. I mean, this is as recently as last year. And Barack Obama, and even his campaign in 2007, when asked, said he had a friendly relationship with William Ayers still. So the fact that he's done all these things and still continues to not repent against his past, it raises questions about who he associates himself with. And a big portion of being president is who you associate yourself with, which would be, I think it's something that the American people deserve to know. Why, even up until last year and giving speeches, being on boards, willingly doing public appearances with him, why he would be willing to do that with a man who's been unrepentant of his horrible acts, including bombing political buildings. Why would he want to associate with such a man?
Gentlemen, I must interject at this point. The point of the matter is, last time I checked, Bill Ayers wasn't running for president. Right now, American families are hurting. They're sitting around their kitchen tables right now with the possibility of possibly being foreclosed on their home and having to move out. This campaign is supposed to be about substance and about issues. When right now we're just doing nothing but debating petty topics when really we should be discussing whether or not a particular plan is better than any other. America is better than that, and you candidates are better than both of that as well. I clearly remember both of your candidates saying that you'd be taking the higher road in this election, and I have to say I'm quite disappointed to see that politics as usual has come through again with all this nasty mudslinging.
I would have to say that I'm sorry as well that that the McCain campaign would say that he pals around with terrorists when Barack Obama was 8 when that happened, and to say that he has a friendly relationship. He was put on a board with Bill Ayers. It's not he's involved in education. Barack Obama is all for education. That's what he stands for. That's one of the things that he believes is important in guiding America to be back on top.
I don't think that is what Mr. Chan has called petty mudslinging, to bring up associations of the president. I think a president's moral character and moral fiber is a very important issue and has a lot of relevance to the American people. And I don't think that bringing up an association with a very, very questionable man and an association that not my campaign said he had a friendly relationship, but Senator Obama's campaign said he had a friendly relationship with. I think that that the person that who he associates himself with, and the fact that he willingly did public events with him, chose him to do public events with, is a topic that shouldn't be categorized as petty mudslinging, but as one that should represent and that American people should know about as to making decisions on a president's moral fiber, who they associate themselves with.
Okay, gentlemen, let's move on to the final question, which really plays off the final question in the second presidential debate. I believe that was the debate moderated by Tom Brokaw. And his closing question for the candidates was, what don't you know and how will you learn it? representing the candidates that you represent today, I would like to rephrase that question and ask you what you think your candidate's greatest shortcoming is, or what they don't know, and how do you think they could best learn it? So we'll start with Mr. Kennedy.
What we don't know is where terrorists are hiding in Afghanistan and Pakistan. That's why we need the diplomatic relations with Pakistan, and we need to create an open door between us and Pakistan, so that we may search for the terrorists that we feel probably are there and are setting up camps there and up in the mountains. And we need to learn it through the diplomatic relations. We need to send ops teams into the mountains and find the man and get rid of him. And that's one of the only ways that we're going to make this country safe from Al Qaeda.
Mr. Chan.
Well, I would say that Mr. Nader's greatest shortcoming is the fact that he hasn't found a better way to break this duopoly of politics that America has been subjected to for the last 200 years. This is a democracy in which every single voice has a right and opinion to be heard. Yet the only time Mr. Nader has ever been represented in a debate is, in fact, this high school debate right now. He was never once allowed in the national debates at all. It's quite a very sad statement when you have to say that Mr. Nader hasn't been in a debate and he hasn't been allowed to voice any of his opinions. This is a democracy that all voices must be heard and the voters have a right to choose.
And Mr. Arnold.
Well, I wouldn't call it, say, McCain's shortcoming, but probably an area that he is not as well educated on as, say, his domestic security or his foreign affairs issues would probably be the economic situation, which is a key reason in why he selected Sarah Palin, a woman who spent years in the economic system of the Alaskan oil industry, taking on, understanding this whole system, a woman whose strongest point by far is economics. With John McCain and Sarah Palin as a joint team, which is what the president and vice president is supposed to be, economics, national security, energy, education, all the bases are covered. Any sort of weak point maybe in McCain is covered by Palin. Any weak point in Palin is normally covered by McCain. So I guess the shortcoming of, if we're just specifically pointing McCain, would be economic, which Sarah Palin has succeeded tremendously in her political career in Alaska and in the oil industry, and her knowledge of the American economic system is a great knowledge that will by far benefit the American people if elected to be vice president.
I do have one more question before we wrap this up. In a couple of weeks, Davison High School students will be asked to cast their vote in an election to choose the next president. Why should any student at Davison High School cast a vote for your candidate? And these will be your closing thoughts. In about 30 seconds, please answer that question. We will start with Mr. Arnold.
John McCain has been a consistent reformer, a man who has plans to keep your taxes low, make sure that you're not getting too much taken away. Ronald Reagan once said government is not the answer to our problems, government is the problem. And under John McCain, the goal is to have a small government, keep out of the interference in your life, but keep our nation safe, continue the peace through strength ideology, to keep the nation secure, diversify our economy, create energy independence by investing in green technology, and overall improve our system of government and cut out a lot of this extra. John McCain would always veto a bill that had what they call would be pork spending or an extra something in it that doesn't relate to the issue. So John McCain would like to reform the system to cut out such spending, and would like to and would make America safer and overall improve the status of our nation and our economy.
Mr. Chan, why should a student at Davison High School cast their vote for your candidate?
The point comes down to this. Ralph Nader has been a man of integrity throughout his entire life and career. He's been a consumer advocate and he's fought for your rights. But not only that, he is completely trying to change the way our politics are had in this current system. Perhaps another point why Ralph Nader doesn't have quite the monetary supplies that be the candidate is that he refuses to take payments from corporations or any other lobbyist. I should point out that Senator McCain's campaign is managed by 2 lobbyists, and the fact that the Democratic National Convention was sponsored by AT&T. Barack Obama later voted to approve the Telecom Immunity Bill. Ralph Nader is a man of integrity, but in all honesty, I can't stand here and tell you to vote for him. You need to look into himself. You need to find out your own issues and look it up. Government is run by only those who show up. Be active, look up, research, make up your own mind.
Mr. Kennedy, why should a student at Davison High School cast their vote in favor of your candidate?
As I stated, it is tough times like these that lie ahead. They are the largest obstacles that many Americans have ever had to face. The biggest risk in tough times like these is investing in more of the same policies that have led our country down the wrong path these past 8 years. Over the past 20 months, people have volunteered and invited Senator Obama into their homes. It is these past 20 months that have confirmed to Senator Obama that American generosity has not diminished despite the economic turmoil. This is one of the many reasons that Barack Obama believes that a successful nation must invest in the American people. He believes we must create good jobs in America. He believes that finding relief for struggling families. He believes in an aggressive response to our financial crisis. He believes in lowering health care costs and ensuring affordable, accessible health care for all. He believes in fighting for the rights and lifestyles of rural America. He believes in finding Michigan jobs and energy independence. He believes in protecting the Second Amendment, gun rights. He believes in ending the war in Iraq, and he believes in all of you. These ideals is what he has always and will always keep fighting for. He will fight and work for you as hard as he possibly can with a spirit of sacrifice and responsibility and determination that drives so many other Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, students of Davison High School. This concludes the DTV 2008 presidential election. Have a wonderful day.